Jacksonville Jaguars next. I mean, this is a team. Like initially, I would say if you didn't do what you were going to do in the draft, and they went and did it, had they not done that, had they stayed home and taken the defensive tackle like everyone thought they were going to do, or maybe taken the running back like everyone thought that they were going to do, I think you remove some of the
I
complications
actually
from
think,
this.
like, if they had stayed at 5, I think it might have been Ted McMillan, which is
Do
interesting
you
too.
really?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
if you
that's an
even if you
aside,
had
but
done that, right?
I think it would have been him or Ashton Genty. I think it would have been one of
Okay.
those 2. Yeah.
If you had done either of those two things, I think that we're looking at this. And again, I admit that I'm being a little bit of an asshole on this whole
Yep.
thing, which is big of me. So I want credit for that. But so if you were a regular Jaguars fan and you didn't draft Travis Hunter, okay, and you didn't just bring in a new GM, all that stuff, you're thinking, okay, we were a 4-win team last year, but we have a great quarterback and we had this breakout wide receiver, and now we're adding either Tet or Genty, right? And we have this offensive play caller head coach who seems to have identified some of the issues with Trevor Lawrence, being afraid to step up in the pocket because of the lack of pressure. We fixed all that stuff in the offseason. We did a good job. This is a team with an astronomical ceiling to me because it's like 4 wins to 9 wins doesn't seem crazy. 4 wins to 10 wins doesn't seem crazy.
Yeah.
But here's where I'm being an asshole. Now you drafted the NFL's first unicorn player who you got to figure out how to play on offense, and he's still raw at wide receiver. Let's not forget that, guys. Like, he still needs to develop as a wide receiver, and you're probably going to play him there a lot more than you are on defense. You got to figure out how to play him 2 ways. With a first-time head coach calling plays, a first-time defensive coordinator, a first-time 34-year-old GM. Like I hate that I continue to rain on everyone's parade, and this is an optimistic show, but like that changes the calculus to me. Where I think if they come out of this with 8 wins, and you figure out a plan for Travis Hunter to be effective on both sides of the
Yeah.
ball, that's a win, right? I mean, I think you've
Well,
kind of changed the math for me.
so let's call the Travis Hunter thing what it is. That's a move a team makes when it thinks it's close. If you're trading up for something that someone that high in the draft that is not a quarterback, right? And I think the Julio Jones trade's probably the best example of it historically, like where a team thought it was close, moved up for a guy who isn't a quarterback. And I think, for the most part that worked. Like uh, it got them to an NFC title game. I think in Julio's first or second year eventually got him to a Super Bowl. So, like, I think what Tony Baselli and James Gladstone and Liam Cohen are telling you when they make the move up to go get Travis Hunter, it's not just that they think the world of Hunter. That's obvious, right? Like, if you're going to do that, then obviously you think he's great. But you're also telling people, we think we're pretty close. We don't think we've got as many holes as maybe some people on the outside think in this roster. And so, like, to me, you know what that hinges on, Connor? To me, it it puts you in a position where I think like there are questions on the roster where you have to be right.
Right.
Walker Little is your left tackle. Trayvon Walker is a guy who you picked up the 5th-year option on. Like, Tyson Campbell's a guy who's got a big contract, right? Like, so I think there are all these things that the previous regime did, right? Like, that I think we all said were questionable. Like Trent Baalke, Doug Peterson, some of these guys, like, it felt like, I think, and Little and Campbell are good examples of it, where they were paying pretty good players great money.
Right.
So, are you right about that? Is Walker Little a long-term left tackle? Can Tyson Campbell be a number 1 corner? Can Trayvon Walker be the kind of edge rusher that you can build a defense around? Now, maybe he doesn't have to be because you have Josh Allen on the other side of him, but like, those are the sorts of questions to me that will determine whether or not they get to 8 or 9 wins. And I think by trading for Travis Hunter, because of what it does to you, not just this year, but next year too, you're basically saying, like, we feel pretty good about where the roster is.
Travis Hunter, and again, like it's unfair to the kid, right?
And by the
Because
way, I cannot wait to watch him play. Like, I haven't been this excited about, like, you get excited about watching quarterbacks, first round quarterbacks. Like, as far as a position player, I'm fascinated to see what this looks like. Like, one of one of the guys, like, I think as far as just, like, most anticipated players for me personally coming into the league in the 20 years I've covered it, like, I mean, he's way the hell up there.
Here's another, like, layer to this, right? Another thing that I think is an optimistic projection that I think Jaguars fans may not be thinking about, but they need to be thinking about, is they need to come out of this year still on the same page the way that they went into this year. And here's what I mean by this. I talked to Joe Madden before the draft, and Joe Madden, for those of you who don't know, was the manager of the Angels, became the manager of the Angels after they had acquired Shohei Ohtani, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of what we talked about was the administrative stuff behind the scenes, right? What does my GM expect from me as a manager with a two-way player? What does the player expect? What is the player's agent and his handler and his trainer? What are all these guys saying over here? And what is the owner saying? What are his expectations for this player? That's the hard part. That's what nobody's talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, 30 snaps on defense, 30 snaps on offense. Who gives a shit? The real deal here is when all the guys making the big money are sitting in the glass office
Yep.
and we're talking about who we're putting on the jumbotron and we're putting all this all the big stuff, marketing, ticket sales, jersey sales, that stuff, right? Who gets to be on the Dunkin' Donuts billboard near the stadium? All of it. That's where you have to nail this, because if Shad Khan comes in and says, okay, we traded up for the league's first two-way player and it's 6 weeks into the season and that guy's playing 20 defensive snaps a game, that's not doing it for me. That's not doing it for anybody. Okay, he's got 2
Right.
receiving touchdowns, whatever it is. Like, that's where
You're
you
talking
have
about
to,
having, like, a roadmap, like a
and
clear roadmap.
keeping everybody in the minivan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because how many times have you and I seen this story, Albert, where you get this player and the player doesn't develop, and then all of a sudden we're getting phone
Yeah,
calls from
yeah,
people in
but
the building, and.
I mean, the problem is, like, this is a roadmap to a destination that hasn't been reached in 50 years, you know what I mean, or whatever it is.
Right.
Like, so, like, that or 60 or 70 years, actually, like, so, like, you're talking about drawing a clear roadmap so everybody can know what the expectations are, the agent, the owner, the marketing people, everybody, right? So you're drawing that roadmap and you're trying to be clear about what your intentions are, but the reality is it's really hard to know if it's gonna work. I mean, I don't know, like, the wear and tear of an NFL season, I it's just different, man. It's different than college. It's, the guys that you're playing against are, 27, 28 years old, are fully grown. Like, you're taking hits from those guys on a week to week basis. There's 17 games minimum. It's a grind, and so, like, I still think, like, with all due respect to Travis Hunter, who's a unique athlete, there's still that element of, like, no one's done it, and as athletes have gotten bigger and stronger, because, like, we would be like, we can't compare it like this to, like, Chuck Bednarik, because you know when Chuck Bednarik was playing, like, guys were truck drivers in the off season. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, this is not the same thing. Like, I mean, the receiver DB, might have been your real estate broker in March. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, it's not the same thing at all. Like, so that's the thing that's hard about it. Like, when I hear what you're saying, and I agree that, like, the clarity of it's important, and having a path kind of drawn up, it's still hard because the destination for that path is one that's sort of, it, you might think you know it, but you don't know for sure whether or not you can get there, because nobody's gotten there in a very, very long time.
Give me, okay, so it's 7.5 wins at MGM. Give me an over in any capacity, even 8 wins. You double your total from last year, which is, I think the ceiling is there for that. I think that the talent is there.
Okay, so here's my issue. So you have Campanelli as your defensive coordinator, right?
Hmm.
You have Yadinsky as your offensive coordinator. You have Cohen as your first year head coach. Okay. I think a little bit of my concern here would be the same concern I had the same concern I didn't have last year with the Titans that I wound up having because I didn't realize the impact that not having a lot of experience on the staff would have.
Yeah.
Like, and I think Brian Callahan would tell you in retrospect that he wished he put doesn't mean your coordinators need to be these guys who've been around forever. But like, can we get like a few ex-head coaches here? Or some guys with some input on one side of the ball or the other. Like, can we get like some of that infrastructure? And so that's where like a little bit of my concern would be, like that is when you've got like a lot of moving parts on the roster to begin with, and you're going to be relying on some younger players, and a lot of these guys are going to be going through scheme changes for the first time in their careers. Is it like what's that gonna be like for them, and who's guiding them? And are the guys guiding them still figuring it out themselves? I think that'd be another big question that we haven't really like that I think you sort of have to dive into.
I think realistic, optimistic, 8 wins, and nobody's fighting about Travis Hunter, right?
Yeah, and
That's
Trevor's
where we could
playing
put a
well.
bow on it.
And Trevor's playing well.
Well, yeah, of course. God, isn't that amazing that it took us about the whole 10 minutes to say that Trevor freaking Lawrence is still here and he hasn't popped he really is a
I
player
know.
the way they need him to? I mean, that's unbelievable.
I know, and he's got a second contract now, which is like I think adds another layer to it. It's just, I mean, to me that part of it's really, really interesting, and we'll see where it goes.